seated. Those of you who are on Facebook will know this, but those of you who are not will not, so I want to explain it. Once you've been on Facebook for about a year or more, they start doing this thing where on certain days they will share with you, not necessarily with anyone else, but with you, a post that you have done, and they'll say, 1 year ago today you posted this, or 3 years ago today you posted this, or 5 years ago you posted this. And then there will be a photo that you've posted, or there will be something that you've written for posterity that has popped back up that you've already forgotten about. I had a couple of those this week, and one of them popped up and it said, 2 years ago you posted this. 2 years ago, Nancy and I were in the intense throes of unpacking before I started to work here in a couple of days. And what I had posted was about our mantle clock. This is a clock that I brought into our marriage, and it looks like a traditional wind-up clock, but it has a battery. And it chimes on the hour. Now, in the process of packing, we got to that point where the packers took over in our move, and if you've ever been in that position, you know everything is fair game. We moved garbage to Mobile when we moved to Mobile. Well, the clock was fair game, so it was packed with the battery. Now, for the first week or two, everything was fine. We had all these boxes stacked around boxes and things in the garage and all this sort of thing. So we had, I guess a couple of days before I posted this, we had gotten it down enough that once every hour we would hear this faint chime. Now, as you would imagine, we started trying to find it. Not that it was a great, important sort of thing to do, but here's this thing chiming. We want to find where it is. So we would go through the rooms of the house listening. And we would try to catch it right around the time for it to chime, but we would always get distracted with something else and wouldn't be there. And so finally, a few days after I posted this on Facebook, we were opening a box and it chimed. And we found the clock. Now, that wasn't some great find that we had. It wasn't earth-shattering, and in some ways it was more fun than anything else. We got some pleasure out of trying to find this thing. But we found it. And finding it was an important part of our life at that time. Think of how much time you and I spend looking for things. Usually they're things that we've put somewhere where we know we'll remember where they are. And then we look for them. Sometimes we even find them. There are those things that are important in our lives that we look for. We spend time and energy doing this. We look in the hopes of finding. Then there are those more serious kinds of things where the looking takes on a whole different texture. Today, we acknowledge the 15th anniversary of what we've come to know as 9/11. I don't have to describe it any other way, do I? I don't know how many of you have had the opportunity to follow the local newspaper. They put out an ad a few weeks ago regarding asking for anyone who had something related to 9/11 to report in, and our own Pat Hunt reported in. There's a written story, there's a wonderful audio track, and there's a video interview with Pat. Pat was in the South Tower when it was hit. And I'll let him give you whatever details he wants to in conversation, or you can go online and read or listen to them. But there's something that Pat said that just sticks with me. I saw God that day. I saw God that day. And he goes on to explain that it wasn't some great vision, but he saw God in the people who were helping each other. And you know, it didn't stop there. God was present for a long time after that in the people who were there digging through the rubble, and the people helping out in this area and in this area. You and I know this is true not just from the events of 9/11. It's true in the bombings in Aleppo. It's true in the earthquakes in Italy. It's true around the world that where we have tragedies or difficulties, people are able somehow to pull together and search and find. Somehow we are able in those moments to set aside our petty differences, our squabbles and everything else in our lives, and focus on this one thing, doing it and getting it done. I've heard stories similar to Pat from other folks. And I've asked people at different times, why is it that you think we can do that? Why is it that you think, why do you think that we can set aside all of these things and do what is at hand? Early on, folks would respond, well, I think it's a survival thing. And I thought, well, yeah, that's probably right. It's a survival thing. Lately, I think that's a little bit of it, and it's a part of it. But I think it's something else. I think it's about hope. I think it is about hope. I think when people are there pulling things away, trying to find someone underneath that rubble, they're hoping that someone is there and that they are alive. And I think they're hoping that they can be their hope too. Survival, sure. Hope, yeah. In our gospel today, Luke tells us this story. Jesus is being visited by, what are the words he used? Tax collectors and sinners. Let's be clear about something. when Luke talks about sinners, he's not talking about run-of-the-mill sinners like you and me. Well, at least not like me. He's talking about notorious sinners. The ones that do things really bad. And probably everybody knows about it. I mean, they're identifying them as sinners. And the religious authorities don't like that these folks are showing up. Who is this Messiah that he would invite and encourage the riffraff to come around? They're only going to rob us and hurt us and do other things. Why is he doing this? So he tells them these parables. And they're parables about being lost and found. Parables about going to look for something in someone that is lost. And in essence, what Jesus says to them is these folks are not without hope. They are not hopeless. And he says, not only that, but when they're found, God is joyous. God is joyous. So it set me to wondering. There are those little things that we lose and we find, and they bring us relief or pleasure. But there are those times when we go searching through the rubble of our lives, trying drastically to find that life that's there, that hope that's there. What if you and I, just for an instant, not a very long time, that's too much, but just for an instant, become people who search for hope. People who invite others to join us in searching for hope. Set aside the things we call each other, the blame of this person or that group or anyone else. What if we decide hope is what is most important? I think we will find it. I think we will find it. And you know what else? I think we will encounter divine joy. And what we've known as being gospel or whatever will be transformative for us and for everyone else.